Welcome to transforming your farm into a business. We thought of this theme for a reason, and it is that last night 18 apprentices graduated from our FAM program, and many of them are still slightly on the fence about whether to continue on to our next phase. And in that phase, they will be learning how to turn their farms into a business. That's the purpose of phase 2. So we thought we would ask some successful farmers here on Maui to make themselves available to our apprentices so that they might be able to be helped in making their decision. And one thing I wanted to repeat that Kelly King said, it's better to walk away knowing that you're not right for something than to go into it and then realize that you put a lot of resources towards something and you're just not meant to do it. That is not meant to discourage people. That's meant to let people off the hook if they feel genuinely that this isn't the right time. So this hopefully will help us with that decision making to see whether or not we're right for this. Let's start with John Cadman from the Breadfruit Company.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming out, you guys. It's funny because I remember I'm here partly because of this guy. This was at a farmers union meeting way back, and I remember him saying, well, go back even. When I was a kid, I lived in Southern Cal, and people used to throw their furniture out on the side of the street, like get rid of couches and chairs. And I always said, wow, that is so cool. So my room was full of old furniture and couches and things. Like I don't know, for some reason, get stuff that everybody wasn't using, It seemed like I always collect stuff. And at college, I used to pick the black walnuts that grew along the street in Corvallis, Oregon. I didn't realize that's what they used to dye meat. But anyway, my hands would get solid black. But they were just everywhere. It's falling on the ground, black walnuts, right? Well, anyway, fast forward way in the future, and I hear this guy, Ryan, talking about 90% of the breadfruit that's grown on this island just falls and drops to the ground and rots. And for me, that's like, no one's using it, it's going to waste, so like that sparked my interest. And then, I don't know, a couple of weeks or a month later, Vincent asked me to give a talk on breadfruit. And just the lights came on, and that was like 6 years ago, and fast forward, and that's my life right now. It's this amazing, beautiful, productive, abundant, still somewhat overlooked, but that's changing a lot. And yeah, I can't get enough breadfruit. I just can't. I stopped making hummus 2 months ago because I just can't get enough breadfruit. So I'm a victim of my own success, I guess, for now. But that's okay, because there's a lot of trees planted and they're growing more. And the main thing is I love what I do. So, yeah. I mean, look at that. That is just so beautiful. It's like, truly. So anyway, thanks for hearing that.
Yeah, I remember that talk at the Farmers Union, and I remember that conversation too, and it's amazing. I think that change is really happening. I know a lot of times we look at these older statistics, and we're waiting for them to change, and maybe somebody hasn't put out the study or whatever, but I think that change is happening. I think agriculture is a real thing, real viable opportunities all over on this island, this planet right now. A lot of change is happening, so keep our eyes on the prize and focus on what we're grateful for and what's good that's happening out there, and so we can all see and experience more of that. It's easy to go the other way too. My name is Ryan Earhart, Okawa Farms. We've been farming or leasing a piece of land in Lower Pula. We're close to Rebecca's farm, not too far away, but just up from the Surfing Goat Dairy or the Vodka Farm. And we've been there 10 years, and we grow about 80 different crops. So very diverse, and we do farmers markets and wholesale, retail sales, and I kind of feel slightly like an imposter, thinking like, well, I'm supposed to be successful. Like, I don't know if I qualify, but at least I know that there's a market there, and hopefully that can help anybody else who's interested in seeing it. Because I think that one thing I could say I've been successful at is proving that there's a market. So what we show up with, we sell. Our limiting factor is production and efficient production. So the market is definitely there. If you can figure out a way to make the numbers balance for your labor and materials in order to get a product out, that's going to be up to you. But I think that the people are ready to buy at reasonable prices that can be sustainable.
Bravo.
Yay. I'm Rebecca Woodburn-Rist, and started to Go Dairy. Similarly to sort of how a lot of people get into farming, I wanted to be self-sustainable. Sorry, Alton, he's taking part. And we got a goat to start having our own milk, and I really liked ice cream, and it became, how can I be a part of the community on Maui? I don't want to just go work for someone else. I want to input something, and it became like, oh, I can make ice cream. I can do these things. And originally, we didn't own our own land. It was just an idea. And from that day, I just kept working one day at a time, figuring out how we could do it, and sort of doors opened along the way. And now we have our own commercial kitchen and a herd of 35 dairy goats, and we're expanding constantly to new locations, and it's pretty exciting. It's me.
Okay, so I have some questions that have been given to me, and some of you have your postcards, so when you're ready. The first question I have is, when did you decide to go for it? And was there a particular moment, and what was the deciding factor? And I'm putting that out to the three of you.
We decided to lease land, and that was like kind of going for it, but still having a 70-hour-a-week full-time job. It was not like a real big risk. It was just kind of like a hobby, but wanting to be just self-sustaining, being kind of the motivation. But kind of going for it and just really seeing that the opportunity was there. Like working at Mana Foods in the produce department for years, I talked to a lot of growers, and so I got a lot of insights and heard a lot of the struggles. And I was telling myself the story that like, oh man, these guys are not doing it for the money. They're really doing it because they want to do that. It's a lifestyle thing. But as I saw people going along and buying new equipment and making these steps, and like saw that there was like hope for the future. You have to start out somewhere, and it might not be in a profitable place, but if you focus, keep your eyes on the prize, you can do that. So I think those particular moments just kept on happening for each iteration of kind of being grateful to have a full-time job so you could afford to farm, because when you're just starting out, it's like really expensive, to maybe getting out of debt and then going into debt and paying it off and going in double and then paying that off and going in double again and on down the line, because you know that it's actually costing you money not to invest more if you're actually planning on doing it for a long time. So each iteration keeps on committing myself to like more decades into the future. And so that's where we're at right now. So right now I'm kind of like on the 20 year. I'm like, all right, I know I'm doing this for at least 20 more years. So and we'll see with the next one if that's getting a little bit more into like, legacy thoughts, about like being able to really own the land and hand it down, or, turn it over to somebody else, like making it so efficient that my kids would want to do it, as opposed to like have to struggle to keep it alive, making it like something where they can pick which position they want to do or whatever. While I was working at Mana, I took the Master Gardener class here through the extension, yeah. Really enlightening, and I moved to Hawaii specifically to grow my own food from Arizona, not knowing how, but I had attempted that in Arizona, but I found that 128-degree weather, like, just, it didn't seem right to have to leave the water on all day long in order to get something to germinate. And I wanted to eat mangoes and bananas, etc. So it's like I had to go to where those kind of things grow. If you want to eat those things, because only certain things can thrive in that 125 degree environment. So that got me here. I'd say we're like biological farmers, permaculture. We're not certified organic, so organically managed. And that may change as we take on more land. We're just starting a new 7 acres. We started mowing yesterday, got it mowed today. So it's another huge step or big risk, like, wow, we're gonna take on more, but that's what we're experiencing in the marketplace, is that we're running into the wall of not having enough constantly. And we want to make sure that we are resting our land and doing cover crops and kind of following through the best practices for that 20-year vision. So we need to have more land to be able to rotate and get that in there, so we can break those pest and disease cycles by getting out of brassicas and stuff. Maybe we're like cultivating 10 or less than 10 right now, but now it's big increase is coming, because we have a lot of pasture land. We also have goats and chickens and orchards and bananas, things like this that don't really count so much as like cultivated land. It's like we kind of did the work, and now you don't really need to have a tractor in there. So it produces, but it's not like, a lot of times people talk about like how much land they cultivate, like how much you're like starting over and redoing or whatever, as opposed to like the orchard is, you kind of did it, and now you just have to maintain it. It's a little different sport.
It's a little different for me. I mean, I'm here as a value-added producer, and my passion, what I want to help see and facilitate, is to establish our small chain food supply. So in other words, not just make food products, but value-added products from things that farmers grow. And I have some breadfruit trees, but mainly, I'm making these value-added products. So in terms of that question, when did I decide to go full-time? That's a tough one. I Googled that one. When do you go from, when you quit your full-time job and start doing it full-time? And there's a lot of variables that affect that decision, and it's something you have to decide for yourself, where your finances are, and your comfort level, and all those things, and how successful you think your product's going to be. And in the end, it was sort of like I had to just step off the cliff. I gave up a really good job at Kamehameha Schools too, so maybe I clung onto it for too long, who knows. But yeah, that's an individual decision, I think, that everyone has to make, and everybody's situation is different. Like, I'd like to hear how Rebecca's, how that all worked out, because I know she's been evolving and growing and expanding, and with the whole dairy and the goat thing, and so yeah.
There was a time when I had started with a couple goats and we were going to go for it, and then my life kind of took a change, and we went, whoa, do not breed these goats. Like, I am not going to be a dairy farmer. And it took about a year before I sort of eased back into and decided, like, okay, early mornings, farming, I think we can do this. But until we bought land and built the kitchen, there was probably never I'm all the way in now. I've always tried to have a way out. For me, I'm definitely committed to the farm and what we're doing, but happiness of life is still the most important. So if push came to shove, I would happily figure out another way. So it's sort of been each time that I've built the herd, and it's gotten bigger. But certainly the success of the products has helped. And knowing how much people liked our caramel and the ice cream has made us keep continuing. And as people ask for it, then I can't really stop. So it's been exciting to watch it grow. I actually started 6 years ago. I was selling bread on the highway in Kula, and I started selling my caramel sauce on the side of the road with my bread. And then that was sort of when people started buying it and were getting excited. That's when I kept making it. And I used different kitchens. I had to rent different kitchens to start too.
Is your commercial kitchen on your farm?
It is, yes.
Because we're
Priceless.
going to do one also.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know many people that have it, so.
Yeah, I will definitely say I'm lucky, I'm fortunate. It's amazing that our kitchen is on our farm, and it also makes it possible
To have a family and a farm at the same time and work in the kitchen with a playpen next to the ice cream freezer. It was not cheap, and I was disappointed that you couldn't. I tried really hard to build an inexpensive commercial kitchen, and no builder, I'm not a carpenter, and no builder, I had ridiculous quotes of, oh, sure, $300,000 to build your building. And it was like, no, I just need a kitchen for my farm. Like, this is crazy. And so it was just hard work getting that to a reasonable startup. It's a standalone. I did it as small as possible, but as big as possible. So the indoor space is 750 square feet. The kitchen itself is only about 450. And then there's covered milking areas. It's probably around 200,000.
John, how many people are approaching you with product, with breadfruit?
Breadfruit?
Yeah.
Right now, nobody, because there's not any in season. It's kind of a weird year. It's starting late. But once the season starts, there's probably at least a dozen people that bring me fruit.
Do you have to turn down, like, when it gets...
I hate to say it,
like,
but sometimes it's just like Whispering Winds Bamboo, for example. They brought me, actually, I wonder if I can go back to my slideshow. I got some pictures. When it comes in, it's crazy. Like, it's just, Whispering Winds Bamboo brought me 1,000 pounds one week. And I don't have, the thing is too, and this goes, I think, with everything, is scaling is the key, right? You can't make money growing 1 carrot, but you have to get to scale, right? And so scaling my product, like I'm using I actually have a bigger steamer now, so I can steam more. That was a huge thing. But this is some of the products. Sometimes you get breadfruit. It's actually very ripe. You can see on the right there. But I use local sweet potatoes, local kabocha pumpkins, bananas. But when the breadfruit comes in, there's washing the breadfruit down at Kahana Gardens.
Wow.
Yeah, rough life. That's my favorite part of the job, is going out to Kahana and picking breadfruit. And that the stream was running that day, so we got to wash them in the river, which is really cool. But like, okay, here we go. Oh yeah, here's a load of breadfruit. The thing is, like, you can't just let it sit, because in a couple days it'll start softening, and I like it ripe, but it'll go way too ripe really quick. So that's about like 500 pounds right there. And when it's in season, then, I got all these farmers, and yeah, it's just, you hate to turn it down.
But at some point it can be good for you, because if you have to use like breadfruit that's like this, your job's a lot harder than you used to.
Oh yeah.
So at least when there's more supply, then you can be like, I just want the big ones. Or
For
whatever.
sure, for sure. Back to that question, Rebecca. So I know the state, the health department is cracking down on commercial kitchens that don't have sewer. But do they have different criteria since you are using your kitchen for product that you grow on your farm?
No, we went through the same, we had to put in a septic tank that was big enough for
Okay.
flow with flow calculations. And honestly, it is still dicey with rolling down at the health department.
Yeah.
If I wanted to rent my kitchen to someone else,
You'd have to get bigger capacity.
probably a bigger one.
So they do allow, but you just have to have a super big septic system. And you yeah,
Yeah, we just got a brand new one.
okay.
So do you have to get a grease trap also?
Yeah. A grease trap's really cheap though. That was.
Yeah, the grease trap's the easy part.
Everyone freaked out about the grease trap, and that was probably one of the cheapest parts.
And I just went through that. But you don't need a grease trap if you're going to work with products that contain no oil. So the grease trap is only if you're going to make a product, a value-added product that has any kind of oil in it. And if it's just a farm product or produce, vegetable, something, and there's no oil, then you can get Sunny Hue to waive that grease trap requirement.
It's a lot of work. I mean,
Yeah.
people they have a tree, they don't want to do any more work
Yeah.
sometimes.
The problem with that kind of thing is most trees are all on private land, and it's not like you want to give that information out to people, because most, you know what I mean? Like you want 1,000 people to know that you have one tree in your backyard that has breadfruit.
One person to know, that's you.
Well, yeah. The thing is, most people come to me and call me like, "Hey, we have breadfruit," and I put it out on Craigslist and stuff. And here's a selfless plug. Is La Ulu, our breadfruit festival is coming up. This is last year's one, but this year it's September 8th. But yeah, great event. But there used to be Ulu all around, and to me, I think everybody should have a breadfruit tree, so they could, that's part of our whole, establishing food security here, so that you don't have to come and buy, because I don't think we'll ever see breadfruit in the stores. It just doesn't. If I took that breadfruit anywhere in 2 or 3 days, it's too soft. And the problem with breadfruit is the best breadfruit in those boxes are the ones that don't look that good to our trained eye that looks for unblemished fruit. Tomatoes with no bananas that are perfectly yellow. Once you know, like I see those are all like beautiful. The ones that are unblemished and green and no sap on them and no coloration are probably immature and they're worthless. You can't use them. So anyway, that's one reason why they probably won't be found in stores, and that they ripen too quickly. They just don't have a good shelf life. But if everybody had a tree, you for your own personal use, you could harvest for your neighbor's tree. Exactly, value added. You process it. For me, processing is steaming, and then I freeze it, and that's the only reason I can stay in business, because when it's abundant like this, I freeze it all, and that's a lot of pies right there. A lot of hummus, a lot of pies.
You graduated from the reach-in freezer to the walk-in freezer, and that was like, that was a good day.
Yeah, that was a good day when I got the walk-in freezer. Yeah. Eat chips. Breadfruit probably has more value-added product potential than about any other food crop we do. From chips to hummus to processed fruit to French fries to home fries to pancakes. Of course, there's the whole making ulu flour, but we're not talking about breadfruit now. This is just value-added stuff. But I think the point being is that value-added is really one of the ways to go and look at. Like with Rebecca and her goat's milk, she's making the caramel. I don't know if she could make it as much of a living if she was just selling goat's milk. So that's one of the keys, I think, is to really look at what it is you're going to grow and see if you can come up with a value added. Ryan's just growing a ton of different vegetables, and he goes to the farmer's market. And
we add value to all of our vegetables by, by
right, exactly.
making it quality and cleaning it and
presenting
it. So that way to make it easier for you using your kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
His stand up at the farmer's market. I still find it hard to believe that all comes from your farm. That's just amazing.
We get it. We definitely get some stuff from some friends and neighbors. I get some ulu to sell from Whispering Wind sometimes, some jackfruit, but. Yeah, definitely all the vegetables grow. I amaze myself when I walk around the farm thinking like, oh, we're not going to have anything to harvest this week, and then just take another walk and be like, oh wait, all these crops are ready again. It's just a cycle,
Yeah.
Depending on the type of ulu, are there enough types that you can have year round, or is it very seasonal?
Not really. People think that, but it's
not like avocados or
no, it's not.
How much of a window is there?
Well, ulu, it's so variable. It depends on the year, the tree, the tree. Here's the funniest, the irony of it all. The tree that actually does bear fruit year round on Maui is in Lahaina in a parking lot behind the old Baldwin House on Front Street. And that tree is in a parking lot, and it was on the map there from 1848. It's probably a root sucker from that original tree. But that tree pretty much has fruit year round. And I'm sure it's because it's tapped into groundwater, the brackish groundwater into the ocean. And they vary too, like Hokuau has trees planted right on the stream up in Waikapu. And at 4 years, his tree would barely fit in this room. It was amazing. It had 7-pound Hawaiian ulu on it. And you couldn't even see through the tree, it was so big. So it varies a lot. I have a few planted in Haiku at actually my ex-wife's house that I have access to. But yeah, I don't actually have a farm per se. Oh, Haiku's really good, yeah. Yeah, just, the more moisture, the better. But you can always water them, yeah. And cold, they don't like cold. You have to be below 2,000 feet. And processing equipment. And they've got a co-op on the Big Island. That's another maybe component to look at too. Like on Maui, steering it back to really what this whole thing is about is we'd be getting a food hub. So that any extra food Ryan has, any extra vegetables he has, or anybody who's got a lot of lilikoi or mango or whatever in season, they could garner it and take it down. Because ultimately that's really what I'd like to get is a big production facility that has room for small value-added producers, has a big storage capacity for chill and freezer, And when people have their mangoes or lilikoi, they bring it in and you process it into purees, frozen purees, or value-added products or whatever.
Yeah, I think storage is always the challenge. It's like never enough once you really start going to scale and if they get more clients. So the goal of the Food Innovation Center is really to be that platform for growth. So start a business there and then ultimately scale to essentially what you all are doing with your own commercial kitchens and
I see.
storage. So
Yeah. So it's
just-
for the startup,
Exactly.
the incubator stage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to begin, so if you can't buy the land, then you're renting the land and you gotta start growing something. Radishes are a good place to start because they take 21 days and then you can have radishes, and 50 days for carrots, and you can plant, even if you're not gonna be there forever, it's still, I think, a good idea, responsible thing to do, to plant trees. We don't own the land, we've planted an enormous amount of trees, and a lot of people have cautioned me against that, be like, oh, you're just, making your landlord's property more valuable, and like, well, it costs a lot of money to go to school, so to have the opportunity to learn those lessons and plant those trees and maybe make mistakes and maybe be successful, then if you did have to move along, you're so much further along when you move along. So I think it's always a good idea to start, and you can do a little bit of everything. If the idea is homesteading, you want to try to, like for me, what that means is like really trying to bring that in to be able to be more sustainable and not have to bring as much stuff in to nurture your personal well-being or your family's well-being. So how can you grow your food or grow your fuel or whatever, so just looking at that, there's a lot of great information available, but one step at a time. It can get really overwhelming if you have this big vision of what you want to do and then you don't do anything because it seems like it's too much. So one step at a time, I'd say.
Our commercial kitchen was just certified a year ago, and so up until that point I'd been building the kitchen, renting Lokahi once a week, and expenses were high without our own facility, and raising the dairy goats but not being able to use my own milk until we had our own facility, and so there was a lot of upfront costs. And because I was buying everything that went into the products, I hadn't pushed the business until this last year. It's all been word of mouth, and sort of as restaurants would call and say, we want your product, then I would approach them, or a couple stores I would go to and say, do you want my caramel or the ice cream? But I hadn't had to market it too much because we weren't ready, because there's a lot of inefficiencies and we were keeping it small until we could get to the point where things were cheaper. I could buy 5,000 jars at a time. But we use social media. I try and work with my Instagram, but maintain online with our website. We can ship anywhere in the US, so I ship out. My husband, he has a master's in business. For the first couple of years, we don't work that well together, so it's been hard to, my dream of the goat farm didn't really blend with his business side of it too much, but he definitely has helped. I didn't know much about that business side, and so he's given a lot of the input and how to give it a polished picture. So I knew about a year ago we needed to redo our logo and invest in our brand. And that was probably coincided about a year ago with going from not having our own facilities to not having the big debt to now we need to make it work, because now there's a heavy debt load associated with the farm and have a lot of people. Yeah, and it has been so similar. It's interesting. A struggle of inefficiencies now, like, wow, I can only afford to buy 500 jars and I'm going to pay double the price for my jars, but I've had to sort of swallow that cost because I didn't want to come into the market with a $20 jar of caramel, and so there's been no profit per se. You try and just make it all meet and hope that the bigger you get, the more money you have, the bigger loan you can take out, you can get a discount on the back end, and that's where you'll end up making your money, through making it more efficient, not by changing the price. So that's sort of where we're at. The ice cream, I have probably, I'm at the farmer's market every Saturday, and then events, festivals. And then the ice cream is in, I think, about 10 stores around the island: Mana, Hawaiian Moon, South Kaanapali, and out at Honolulu General Store. And then the caramel is probably in about 25 different stores around the island. And then also on the Big Island in Oahu and Kauai for the caramel. The caramel is a little bit easier. That was also a way to carry the business. We wanted to do ice cream, but we needed to get there through caramel because it's shelf stable, it doesn't need to be kept in a freezer, the costs are lower, and it's easier to send home with tourists. So the ice cream has been our goal, but we had to figure out other products at the same time. And goats, we have a lot of milk, so caramel. No, we have a portable freezer, which isn't big enough, and we're trying to figure out, so right now we do all our own deliveries, and we're just delivering one store at a time. As the orders get bigger, it doesn't fit in my portable freezer, and I really need a freezer truck, and I don't, yeah, we're working on it.
You know, I'm going to back up a minute too, and in terms of your question, you know, because I'm like Ryan, I'm so busy that I know there's so many opportunities for funding and sources of money out there. Because see, the thing is, the climate right now is everybody realizes we're going more towards a localized and locally sourced small chain food supply. Everybody wants that. It's better for not just our bodies, it's better for the environment, it's better for our local economy, it's better for everything. People are all coming around to see that. There's a lot of people with big money that are looking to invest in that kind of operation. But one in particular, and does anybody know Sharon Hurd?
Yes.
Right? So she works for the USDA. And once you get on her mailing list, your inbox will be full of grant opportunities and USDA loans and like overseas, like selling to Japan, like I have no interest in. I'm just saying, like everything that comes up. Because the government, honest to God, our government, there's a lot of opportunities for loans and grants for farmers. Right now, because what would really be great for me is to actually have my farm that I could use the breadfruit, because once you do that and then you are making a value-added product, then they have manufacturing grants, and I mean there's so many, and I'm not going to stand here and tell you how to do that, go about that. I just know that they exist, and if you can hire somebody or get someone to help you to navigate that whole process, it would be well worth it. It's just that I don't have my farm right now, so I know there's a lot of things that I wouldn't qualify for. I don't know. In some answers to some of that related to some thoughts I had when he was answering and Rebecca was talking about her marketing, like, you know, first off is come up with a great product, because then you don't really have to work. So I'm not a salesperson. Like I honestly hate trying to sell stuff. But if you can come up with a really great product, then it's going to sell itself, and people will be banging your door down to try and get it. And so the growth of Pono Pies has just been totally organic and fortunately slow enough for me to keep up with the demand. I haven't really, I get phone calls from restaurants, and I pretty much, with the exception of when I first started to take the pies to a few places, obviously in the beginning you have to take it, to down to Earth and Mon and get them to buy it. But once you start getting traction with your product and people want it, I almost laugh when somebody calls me up and says, "Hey, how about advertising with us?" I'm like, "Advertising? Are you kidding?" I can't keep up with the demand right now. Why would I pay money to try and get my product brand out there even more recognized? I can't keep up with the demand, right? If I could, then that would, that's the normal process. But I think that's part of the new environment of our food culture and our food economy, is people want to have things that are made locally, that are good, and use local products, and that's what people are looking for. And if you're there, they will find you. And now there's more venues now that offer that opportunity. And like I say, part of that food hub thing for me would be inside a huge building. You'd have your manufacturing area, but you'd also have a big retail space where farmers and producers could have their products. They wouldn't necessarily have to be there selling it, right? You would have somebody there that could manage and oversee that. And then
those are all good customers too, so.
Yeah, exactly. I have a spot picked out, and I just need, like $800,000 for the land and maybe $1 million for the building. But
That's it?
Yeah, that's it. I know.
And then double that.
Double that, yeah.
And then, yeah, start with 4 million, and in the end, I'll maybe have 2. But yeah, Ulupono Initiative. Have you guys heard of them? They're super active in this. That Pierre Omidyar is the guy who started eBay, and he sold it, and he's got all this money, and so he started the Ulupono Initiative, and they've been really interested in helping people, and they won't really. You need to be more than just like, you know, a backyard or starting. You have they like something that's already starting and it's got some traction, you know. But they've been real supportive. Like they supported the Ulu event, and they've actually called me up because since I work with Breadfruit, and they've helped me a lot. Not financially yet, but they've put me in contact with people that are helping me to get my business plan and model more finely tuned and things, and they have a lot of money, and they're kind of just waiting to see, and hopefully they've offered to, you know, buy some trees and fencing and things. We just need to find the land. In fact, I sat down with A and B and the guy from Ulupono about 6 months ago to see about leasing some land. But right now, A and B only wants to lease like 100 acres or more. They don't want to lease a lot of 10-acre parcels. So it's at this point, it's pretty large scale, and 100 acres is a lot to bite off right now. So,
But if it was a food hub, that 100 acres could be.
Parking lot, food hub.
Yeah.
foundation, food
well,
underground.
you could fill it up fairly easy. You could even make your own ag park, you know, and sublease parcels, you know, which is what we thought about. The one challenge with that is a lot of that land doesn't have county water to it. So
Potable water,
yeah, potable water. So then you have the issue and the location of it too. Like you know, for a food hub, you'd really want it where it's central. You know, you want to tap into the tourist market. You know, I think when people get off the plane, have a place where they can go, and when they're leaving, you know, they can stop by and get a bunch of value-added products from Maui. And I mean, I know the perfect spot right over near Costco Gas. I've got the lot picked out and everything. And I'm gonna have a big metal building and have it all painted with breadfruit leaves, you know, and like people will drive by and go, "What the heck is that?" You know. But yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity. But like I say, the economy, everyone's conscious, and ideas are changing as because we've realized. Like I wore this shirt because it's got pineapple to kind of remind us that the way we've done agriculture in Hawaii for the last 150 years didn't work. That clearly didn't work, you know. So we need to try a different approach, and I think people realize that now. You know, smaller, sustainable, diversified, regenerative agriculture.
Well, when people change their buying habits, you know, McDonald's would sell lentil burgers if that's what people went there and bought. When people start spending more of their money at the local farmers markets, buying locally produced food instead of food that's shipped here, that all that will do is will, you know, increase sales of locally sourced and manufactured food products.
Consumers are the most powerful people. We just have to really own that. I mean, Costco's come a long way as far as selling organic. It's industrial organic, but it's more and more it's there. McDonald's, I heard, was using paper straws. So I was like, really? Didn't think that would be the first, you know, one of the first adopters or whatever on that one, you know. But that's, I mean, cool. But it's public pressure, it's public demand. So it's, you know, I'm grateful for all the people out there that, you know, stand up and, you know, speak their mind and get it, you know, put it out there, you know, for everyone to be aware, you know, because what one person is saying, there might be 10 more people thinking it, you know. So the companies and businesses, when it comes down to it, their bottom line is, you know, they have to, you know, get you to give them money. So at some point, our opportunities to make it better is, you know, with our dollar. I see like Costco putting out, you know, that they're willing to give farmers loans because they want more local product. When it comes down to it, in order to sell to Costco, you have to fit into their rules for their liability. They're trying to protect their business interests, so you have to do ABC. But it's expensive to get to that scale.
Yep.
But compared to 10 years ago, the amount of local products available at Costco, I think, has increased. At Safeway, at Foodland, everybody's on it. I think it's growing in all, you know, organic and local is growing in all those venues. Yeah, not everybody can get to the farmers market, but there's a lot of other ways. If you go out and eat out, like the restaurant thing, like people who used to just buy all their stuff from Costco, like the customers beat them up. They're like, hey, where's the local? How come you don't have local? And you know what? They want that customer to come back in, so they patronize them. They give them whatever. All right, we got local tomato or we got local banana. And when they see that customer, they're so excited to tell that story, and then the customer gives them good feedback, and then the feedback loop works. It goes back and forth. So I see that it is changing. A lot of people who are very, kind of stodgy and doing it, just all about how do I buy it for so cheap, and then so I can make money. I can't buy expensive stuff. I got to get it from wherever it's cheaper. And they're making those shifts, and they're getting that feedback because the community's coming around. So I see that we are moving in the direction. It's not going back the other way. But it is going in the right direction. And Foodland, I think they're all doing it. We work with all the big distributors, and they're all, my thing is we don't have enough supply to get it. So we go for more of the local businesses first in the farmers market, and people who have always been supporters. But there's a huge demand out there. So that's why I say, more expansion, we need more farmers, because the demand is there. The limiting factor is we're not producing enough. The market will absorb it as it's there.
During the FAM program, we had Hugh Starr come, and he spoke to us about something that's gone through recently the planning department, but still has to come up in front of the county council. And it is a system of housing that is about condominium, I know that's a tough word, condominiumizing, but creating clusters. Does anyone remember exactly, Adam, do you recall what he was saying about how to create these clusters so that farmers can own these parcels and live on that land, but they're part of a larger parcel, and it allows for subdividing in ways that aren't allowed at this point.
And they own a portion of that TMK. That, I think, is the real key that Hugh's talking about, is to be able to give the farmer a sense of owning not only the building that he lives in, but also the land that he's working on, so that you can do value added and build on your investment and see that come back to you or your family or whoever at the time that land changes hands. That's a key, I think, to be able to give the farmer that value.
This year, our FAM program had a large percentage of people that own their land are already on their own land. Either it was purchased or inherited, but it makes a difference. You make that commitment, and I think Carlos, you and Ayako know that you suddenly decided to make that commitment, and now you're fully into it. They're applying for the bed and breakfast. You've got things planted, and so in terms of what you just said, Rebecca, it's sort of like there's also the motivation becomes stronger when you do own your own land. That it's not that you go out and buy land to farm. You have land, you decide that you want to farm it, and then you get motivated to do that, put the time in that it requires. And the FAM program certainly helps with deciding what to do with that land. What do I want happening with that land? What methods can I adopt that will lessen my overhead, reduce the amount I have to pay for imported inputs, being able to do bartering or trading with others in terms of equipment or time, being able to share a facility, all those things that come from that support that can come from being part of a community of farmers. Maybe some of you, I don't think, John, you got to answer the question about
Costco.
Costco and that kind of thing.
Well, Costco, Safeway, Foodland, they all approached me to try and get my product there. I couldn't supply them. I just don't have that capacity of scale right now.
There's definitely enough land.
There's enough land to grow enough breadfruit.
Housing for the workers, and
yeah,
it's the work.
It's just scaling and trying to get it. I could sell my product all on the mainland. It's unique. It's there's nothing else like it out there. But I didn't start with $2 million. I started with 10,000. So yeah, I'm just trying to grow it organically and scale it as I go. But the thing is, as people's buying habits change, I think I know it's really convenient and easy, and that's what most people are in the habit of doing, is shopping at Costco and Safeway and Foodland. But it's changing, people's habits and our whole food economy is changing the way people buy their food. Like Brian said, the farmer's market is just getting bigger. And that's why what I see is having a place where it's not just on Saturdays, but people can go any day of the week and go there and have their produce. And so, not that we want to get rid of the farmer's markets. It's just great community and good fun and fellowship, but where he can sell his product and he can still be farming. He doesn't have to show up at the food hub to have his product getting sold. A place where it would focus solely on locally sourced, locally produced, value-added products that he can drop by and whatever he has extra of can. I think Oahu has a food hub that just opened up. Yeah, I want to get over there and take a look at that.
Yeah, it's in Waimanalo, I think, is
Yeah.
where it is. And they're definitely an example. John, are you familiar with who is providing Ulu products to the school lunch program?
Yeah, it's the Ulu Co-op on the Big Island, and
How's that working out?
not very good.
What's the problem?
Well, I know. The problem with our school lunch program in Hawaii is, well, one of the many, is that they're on a cycle menu, so that every school in the entire state of Hawaii on November 23rd has beef stew, let's say. And so when they have that menu come up, they think they figured out they need like 10,000 pounds of ulu, so every school can have ulu on the menu that day. And then next week they don't need any, and it doesn't work that way when you have to have 10,000 pounds of something on one day. If I went to Ryan and said, Ryan, I need 10,000 pounds of carrots,
Yeah, and the next.
but then we're not going to buy any from you for for another. Well, it'll come up on the menu again in 6 weeks. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. And so they're trying to fit this square peg in a round hole. Not to mention, I actually. Where was it? It was at the food hub. I had the buyers for the school lunch program about 2 years ago over here. And I made a beef stew. I brought it in, and instead of potatoes, I had ulu chunks. It was perfect. The kids would love it. You can't overcook it. You think it's a potato. Instead, they made some wrap with ulu in it, which I'm thinking, it's one thing I do know is kids' eating habits, and I'm thinking, that's not going to work. The beef stew is one of the things they make from scratch. Instead, you just take out the potatoes, put the ulu in. Anyway, I could talk a lot on that. It's not working that well. Not to mention the fact that the ulu they're getting on the Big Island is a smaller variety, and they were really challenged getting 10,000 pounds. But again, it's all a matter of economy of scale. They've planted thousands of breadfruit trees on the Big Island, and they're going to have a glut of ulu within the next 5 years, I think. They're going to need to figure out something to do with it, which won't be hard. They'll just come up with a lot of other commercially produced products. But yeah, I think they tried to, it's a great idea. Yeah, getting locally sourced ulu into schools is a fantastic idea, but they really weren't ready for it. And then not to mention the bureaucracy of the school lunch program.
But if you got a pono pie in front of every kid, heck yeah, they're going to use it.
Yeah,
It's like all
that's
like
true.
right?
Yeah. Actually, I could have sold them the hummus, because hummus is actually on the menu now
Right.
in the schools. I could have sold them the hummus, but I didn't mention it. I stopped making my hummus 3 months ago, because I can't get enough ulu. So that's the problem.
It's one of my favorites.
I just got to wait till it comes back in season and store more this year. Because every year I've grown, my production and my sales have grown. So I say, okay, I'm going to store more this year. And I've made it through every year, but this year I had to quit. I had to stop the hummus. I sell out at every store.
Yeah.
The pies run out, even Whole Foods. And I am so fortunate because retailers hate empty shelf space. Like if you read the way it works is, if you can't keep that shelf full, you're gone. You'll drop like a hot potato. No one's done that to me. Nobody has dropped my product. Except the only thing like at Mana, I used to have, it was eye level and deli reach-in over near the deli side. Now they've got me on the very top shelf. I still sell out there. It doesn't matter. People know where they're at. People still look for the pies up there. But that's I think, a reflection of the trend we're in. It's a reflection of how good Pono pies are, true. But it's also a reflection that people want to buy locally sourced products, and when they don't care. You know, we should get off of this concept of, there's, you can't get grapes this time of year. Well, let's ship them from halfway around the world then, because God knows my kid has to have grapes in his lunch, right? I mean, it seems ridiculous. Or bananas. That's Ecuadorian bananas in the schools. Like, it's insane. I was just in Morocco this year, and they have a variety of banana that grows in the cold, because I was there in February and it was butt cold at night, and they have bananas. You go down the street, they have so many bananas. It's amazing. And it was like 40 degrees. Did you grow bananas in 40-degree weather?
I think so, as long as it doesn't freeze. So
Okay.
Yeah.
But they
Just grow slower.
Yeah, like their food economy was so amazing in Morocco. They raised everything. But point being is, we need to change that concept of we just have to have something, and if it's not in season, then find out what country has it and ship it in. Like, we have to get rid of that mindset. And I think it is changing. But when you see that and then you're waiting for everybody to catch up, then it's like, wait, I don't get it. How come? But they're coming around. People are coming around.
As a general question, I was curious, how do you guys pay yourselves as business owners in this process? And how long did that take to happen? Or when will it happen, do you think?
I graduated to $3,000 a month this year. Yeah.
Yay.
That pretty much affords me we eat, and then I pay for my kids to go to school, so that's all I do.
Rebecca?
Yeah, I don't think I'm paying myself yet. Still just covering the expenses and growing food. Yeah, just basically covering expenses. There's no extra. I keep thinking like, I can't wait till I can cut myself a check.
Saving money?
Yeah, I used to be, before I started the farm, I didn't like having debt, and I kept my money very clear, and it was like everything was paid on the certain days, and now it's a slippery slope. Using your business card to pay for your groceries because your personal card doesn't have the money because you haven't transferred over, and so intermingled. Certainly, I think getting busier and getting the business more successful, I keep saying next year. Well, now that I've had my son, this year will be our successful year, and then next year after that. But trying to meet our sales goals, we're still on target. So there's a point where I know it will switch over. It has to.
John?
Paying myself. I knew I was forgetting something. I guess technically the question is, it depends on how you set up your company. I mean, like you want to know the technical aspect of it. I have an LLC, so I have to take member draws. And then for my employees, I have Intuit QuickBooks, which is really convenient. It costs a little bit of money, but you can use that, and it pays their federal taxes, takes everything out. So all I have to do, it's so simple. I just put in how many hours they work this week, and it does all that work. And I think I pay $100 a month for that. But I don't have to cut any checks, do anything. I'm thinking about putting myself on it, but I don't think I can. I think I have to do draws, so you have to have a separate business account. But I'm like Rebecca, I pretty much, when I go eat at Mana, it's meals and entertainment and business expense, So I try and deduct as much as possible of just my daily expenses, Every time I pump gas, I use my business credit card, I just deduct everything. So I don't know how much I'm not.
You actually have employees or full-time employees?
I've gone up and down. I had one full-time for a while. It was actually my son. And yeah, I usually have one full-time and a couple part-times, plus myself full-time. Yeah.
Who does the marketing?
My son does a little bit of the Instagram account, but really we don't, other than Instagram and some Facebook stuff. And events, like I showed you, we do La Ulu, and I was doing the Swap Meet for a little bit. And what I really find, what I enjoy doing and helps to keep my brand relevant and being out there is doing all the events, like last week I did the Navaja event, Tropical Plantation. I'm doing the Family Day up at Uinoya this weekend. I support, Maui Calls, the Maui Huliau event in September, August. I've done that every year since they started. The School Garden Network, I always do that. And I think that's, keeping the brand out there. That's the best advertisement. Oh, Mana'a Radio. That's the best advertisement I get of all, by just helping to, and that's the cool thing about it. I'm helping to support a local radio station. Like, I would do that for free, and they announce Pono Pies, it's like a win-win, So that's the kind of marketing that I like to do, where I donate something to somebody and they're benefiting from it. I donate to KCCR, Kauai Community Radio. They have an awesome radio station over there.
Yeah, word traveled fast at the Botanical Gardens when you had chips made of ulu and you were deep frying them or something.
Yeah.
And people were walking around the event and sharing them with people. Where'd you get that? And suddenly they refer you back to your booth. That's great. That's awesome. Oh yeah, thank you, Vincent. I wonder if he knows that we're live streaming. If it's live streaming, is it also being recorded? Oh, awesome. Okay, good. Well, I was wondering if you have any parting words for our future entrepreneurs as they go forward. You've shared so much amazing and valuable information. I want to thank all three of you right now for that. It was really, really good. Any parting words for us, John?
Well, you mentioned share all your failures with everybody, which I think that's a whole other story. But the fact is, I don't really look at them as failures so much as things that I learned that I was doing wrong and that I learned to change. And so I've just been willing to change pretty much everything, from recipes to containers to whatever. And I think that's the approach of just being willing to continually change, to grow, improve. You just have to keep that going. And the sad part is the bigger you get, the more costly those changes can become. I mean, it's funny, you think of people that get huge, are selling, millions of dollars worth of product a year. You'd think they've made it. They must be killing it. They're doing so good. But when they have an issue, a challenge, or something that comes up, those are the things that put them out of business. If I get stuck with a box of pie boxes now I'm switching the container that I make my pie, so now I use 9-inch pie boxes. So I don't need those 9-inch cake circles anymore. I was thinking I wanted to keep making them in that. I was like, that box only cost me $13. I can let that go. But when you're dealing in $1 million worth of something, that when a mistake costs you, make all your mistakes when you're small and learning, and be willing to change and start off with $2 million. That helps too.
Yeah, I would add, thanks for having me here tonight, and I think that make lots of mistakes, and if you're not making mistakes, you're not growing. So that's a mistake. So it's a mistake to not make mistakes. So keep that going. And if it is to be, it is up to me. That's the one I always try to get my kids to get. It's the 10 most powerful words in the English language. They're all 2-letter words. If it is to be, it's up to me. So if you decide it, then you can. If you think you can, if you think you can't, you're right. So humans are amazing and we can do it. So really, if you're passionate about it and you can dream it, then you can make it happen. And I'd also add, dream big. I don't think I dreamt big enough early enough, so it's a little bit more rocky as opposed to just dreaming big and focusing and doing it. It's amazing. We have a great community, a great place, and grateful for all of our customers and community to allow it to happen and vote that what we're doing is a good thing, and it's good. So I just encourage everybody to seek out your mentors and talk to people, have the conversations, and just don't be afraid to make mistakes. You have to do that.